welcome to episode 323 of Late Night Linux, recorded on the 24th of February 2025. I'm Joe, and with me are Phelim.
Hello.
Graham.
Hello.
And Will.
Hello.
Let's get straight on with our discoveries then. Will, guacamole.
Guacamole is a VNC / remote desktop replacement, I suppose. It sits on your machine and serves via a web server to an HTTP page, and then interfaces with, for example, VNC or RDP or $other, and allows you to share your remote desktop over the web. So you don't need a client on the remote machine. You just need a web browser, which is rather handy because if you are halfway around the world and your kids' computers are broken, you don't need to get access to a particular client. You can just open up a website and get access to it. Now, this is entirely new to me. I've never seen this before, but Phelim mentioned that he's been using this for years. So why didn't you tell me?
I think I had this as a find a very long time ago, and what I did was try to search for it on our webpage / Matt's webpage, and it didn't find it, but I'm pretty sure I did because MacPhail even pinged me about it on our Telegram room. So I was really confused and I couldn't find anything. And basically what I mean is that searching on the internet is shit. Is what I'm going to say. But yeah, Guacamole is awesome because for COVID, I had some clients that needed access remotely. They had essentially machines in the office. They had machines at people's houses and they need to link them so people could work remotely and use the various local tools in the office. And Guacamole was the win. It was absolutely fantastic. Essentially, companies that were able to actually keep doing their job because of it. It's an amazing project. A shame it's written in Java, but anyway.
So you're telling me that I fire this up on my machine and then I give you a link to effectively a website and then you can control this machine. It's not just me streaming what's on my screen to you. This is, you can actually get in and click stuff and type stuff and all the rest of it.
Yeah, it's a full remote desktop client.
How is that possible?
Nobody knows.
HTML5 or Magic, I mean, either one is equally the same thing.
There's a server process called guacd, which acts as the go-between from the web side to the remote desktop protocol side. HTML5 has a bunch of streaming video plugins, WebRTC, those kinds of technologies that allow you to capture mouse input, keyboard input, I think sound as well.
Does, yeah. And
redirect it down a web pipe, and then you can do what you want. So I think it's worth pointing out before somebody says, oh my God, what about the security? This thing has got so much pluggable security. It's amazing. It does two-factor authentication. It does LDAP authentication. You can have a local database of users. It does pretty much every conceivable proper security process that you can imagine. It supports it. So it is secure.
That must have been something you had to deal with, Phelim.
So I linked the security side of it into AD because there's actually some nice plugins and telling you how to connect to AD. And if anybody really has a nightmare with it, I can send people rough ideas of what they need to do for queries and stuff because it was a bit of an awkward one at the start for groups. But yeah, tied that in, but then also had everybody use a TOTP app in their phone, whatever that happened to be, like either Google Authenticator or whatever the iPhone has, or AndoTP or whatever. There's loads of them out there, but it was nice because it was a simple sort of open standard for two-factor, and then that stopped the boxes getting hammered off the internet by people trying to wallop on passwords. And yeah, worked really well. And this, for most cases, was a lot of Windows stuff on the far end and locally as well. So it's not like you were just talking about Linux all the way here. So yeah, it was brilliant.
Well, I have been doing Macrodata Refinement. For those who haven't watched a show called Severance, you will have no idea what we're on about. But there's a great show on Apple TV or wherever you get your shows. And it's this weird, like, sci-fi thing. It's really hard to explain without spoiling it. But part of what they do is data refinement, where they sort of collect these numbers and it just makes no sense at all. It turns out that seemingly a couple of years ago when the first series came out, they put this thing on GitHub. There's no license, though, which is a bit disappointing. But nevertheless, it's all there to look at. And there's a website that you can do your own refinement in. So if you're into that show, then definitely check it out.
Or if your earnie is.
Yeah, indeed, if your earnie is. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work very well in Firefox, but it works perfectly in Chrome, which is annoying, but reflects the sad reality of the web in 2025.
Is that why I couldn't get it to work? I actually spent far too many minutes of my life trying to get it to work and not really knowing what was going on.
Well, it was just really, really sluggish in Firefox and really, really smooth in Chrome.
I still couldn't get it to do what it was meant to do. I genuinely don't know what's going on.
Well, I managed to get to 100%.
Oh, fuck you.
I got a bit of a surprise. My wife came in, she's like, what the fuck are you doing? I thought you were working. I am working. I'm preparing for tomorrow's show.
It feels wrong. It feels like you should have to take an elevator to start playing that game.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't remember it if you did.
Maybe we did. Who knows?
It's a bit number wang, isn't it?
Very much so. But really, this discovery is watch Severance. It's a great show.
Concur.
I'm a bit worried that it's going to just turn out to be them making shit up every week and having no clue where it's going to go. But enjoy the ride. That's my theory on it.
Look, when I watched Lost the first time, I read some forum like 2 weeks into watching it, and a guy went, "Oh, I bet they're just in like purgatory or something like that." And then they were, and I was annoyed. 5 years later, when it was like, "Fuck's sake, stupid fucking internet."
Phelim. Sky's ADSB. This is your plane tracking bollocks, isn't it?
If you mean the amazing thing that makes you the coolest kid in the block, then yes, that's exactly what I mean. So this is quite a cool project, which I partially got working because of my weird setup and my very old installs of my ADSB trackers. I didn't quite get it working the way it should do, but what it does is allows you to have a 3D interface onto your ADSB data and see where the planes are in the sky. Use a mouse to sort of drag yourself around the sky and scroll in on things, and using a couple of libraries that give 3 maps of the world where the sort of boundaries of countries and states or counties within those countries and various routes allows you to move around the sky in a 3D-esque sort of environment and see planes flying about. And if you happen to be in the United States, you actually get to see the aircraft flight paths, which is FAA data, which, assuming people download it now before everybody's sacked by the idiot in charge, you should still be able to get the actual airport data and stuff like that and flight plans.
Oh, they've got a GIF here showing it in action. Oh, I know this. This is a Unix system.
Yeah, it is a bit like that, all right?
Those vector maps are very classic 80s computer hacker stuff. I love it.
I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say it reminds me of the computer whopper in war games.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Every air traffic controller's going, what are you talking about? That's exactly what it looks like right now as well.
But you had some trouble with it then?
Yeah, and that was more down to the fact that I have 2 setups. I wasn't going to let it anywhere remotely near my live get the stats top of the chart table sort of main system that I run because, you know, uptimes, etc. But on my test ADSB system where I'm trying to try out a couple of antenna, as you do, I think everybody does that, right? I had it tried to install it, but I'm using a Docker-based thing called Ultrafeeder, and it refused to allow me to open the port, even though I'm convinced I did it correctly, and it wouldn't talk to get the data for the airplanes. So I could have talked over the network to my actual live currently working one, but I just wasn't going to accidentally get my stats down, essentially. So it wasn't happening.
You didn't want to fuck with prod, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. But it looks really cool. And yes, I'm going to actually endeavor to get this thing working because it does look very cool.
Okay, this episode is sponsored by 1Password. Do your end users always, and I mean always without exception, work on company-owned devices and IT-approved apps? I didn't think so. So how do you keep your company's data safe when it's sitting on all those unmanaged apps and devices? 1Password has an answer to this: Extended Access Management. 1Password Extended Access Management helps you secure every sign-in for every app on every device because it solves the problems traditional IAM and MDM can't touch. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management is security for the way we work today, and it's now generally available to companies with Okta and Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. 1Password's award-winning password manager is trusted by millions of users and over 150,000 businesses from IBM to Slack. And now they're securing more than just passwords with 1Password Extended Access Management. Secure every app, device, and identity, even the unmanaged ones, at 1password.com/late-night-linux, all lowercase. That's 1password.com/late-night-linux. Graham, you've been playing with Home Assistant's Voice Preview Edition.
I have. I think I mentioned it in the show, 6 weeks ago that I'd ordered it. I've bought this myself. We're huge users of Home Assistant in this house. I was just checking, and we've got on Home Assistant, there's over 300 devices.
What?
And over 1,000 entities.
How is that possible?
I mean, I live in an old house, so it doesn't have ceiling lights. We've got a lot of lamps. When we do have ceiling lights, I've got smart bulbs in them. So in the kitchen, we can have lights for the different surfaces or in the ceiling. Not only that, we do the music, 3D printing, turning on the amplifiers, the TV.
We do the 3D printing, do we? Yeah.
Okay, I do. Turning on and off the coffee machine. It's difficult to get to the switches and the power sockets for all of these things. And honestly, everybody here is used to speaking to the Amazon device. And we've got 2 Amazon devices, one in the kitchen and one in the living room. And we use them all the time for everything. So I was really keen to try and find and get away from those Amazon devices and try and find something that would, in theory, be capable of staying on the network. And so, I really have been putting it through its paces the last few weeks. In fact, for the majority of the time, I've put it alongside the Amazon device in the kitchen, which is where most people use it for turning on the coffee machine and the lights and the music, which is where we spend most of the time.
All right, so my question is, how local has this been? Have you managed to do it completely on the LAN, or has it had to reach out to Home Assistant servers?
I mentioned this before, but I use Home Assistant Cloud for the security and remote access to Home Assistant. I hadn't used this before, but one of the things that Home Assistant Cloud offers is also the text-to-speech, which means that you don't have to install local text-to-speech. If you're happy for the words to be sent to the server and then to be sent as speech back to your device. So I've got that from Home Assistant's servers. Everything else, though, I've done locally.
What, so it can talk back to you, you mean?
Yeah. By default, when you turn it on and get it configured, there's about, 40 built-in sentences that it can understand without doing anything else. Turning on and turning off lights, setting brightness levels, addressing a specific entity, triggering scenes, media playback. It knows the date and time. Another thing that we commonly do with the one in the kitchen is set a timer, for an egg or something cooking. It's got a ring of LEDs at the top, which this is nice actually. It'll kind of count down like a clock on those ring of LEDs.
Can it do fart sounds?
I think it works really well just for this local stuff. And I think that's going to cover everybody's use cases.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Yeah, go on.
What is the device?
This whole thing was a device you could buy. It's about the size of a small stack of beer mats.
Ah.
The quality is a bit better than 3D printing.
How many beer mats are we talking about here?
Well, it depends on the thickness. I'd say about 8 stacked up. It's a couple of centimetres high and about the same size.
Oh, so that's not much then.
It's pretty small, yeah.
And it's about 55, 60 quid.
Yeah. It's got a button in the centre at the top. You can rotate the ring, which acts as like a volume, and it's got a mute button on the side. It was difficult to set up. Without the right HTTPS configuration, it wasn't getting the voice recordings from the server, which you probably wouldn't have a problem if you do that locally. And I think it's almost a single click if you do that locally. So, maybe I should give that a go.
It looks like it hasn't got an Ethernet port on it then.
No, it's all wireless. And I couldn't get it to connect to my phone for setup. So I actually had to connect to Bluetooth on my Wise box to get it to set up. It's the only way I could get it to work.
The thing I'm most interested in is, well, let me caveat this with the story. I am as confident as I can be that the voice detection on Amazon's device over the last year or so has got significantly worse. I have devices in the same location they have been for years and years and years, and suddenly they've gone relatively deaf and they just don't respond in the same way. However, they have always been very good at a long way away detection, and that is quite important to me. So how do you find the quality of the wake word detection?
Yeah, really good question. And I had this right alongside the kitchen device, and so we all used it. For me, with my voice, I would say it was 90% as good as the Amazon device, unless we often listen to music in the kitchen, and the Amazon device is really good at detecting your voice even with a load of background sound, and this isn't so good. For female voices, it wasn't quite as effective, and they did have to try harder or move closer to the device. But for me, it was pretty much 90% as good, which I'm really impressed with for an open source device in presumably not such a great microphone array as the Amazon ones have got. And because we've used these Amazon devices a lot over the last couple of years, I can say, I haven't measured it, but I would put money on it, it's quicker. It's quicker at turning on and off things and setting things when it's local. I mean, so I've got it here. I'm gonna turn off. There's a light in here. So if I go, okay, Nabu, turn off office light.
Turned off the light.
That's quicker than if I did it on the Amazon device. And it's turned it off, and it's turned it off before she said it.
I found with the Amazon device running servers locally, specifically a Node-RED plugin, which emulates the really old, I can't remember now, the Philips device, whatever that was.
Oh, the Hue.
Using a very, very early protocol, but it makes your things appear on the network as if, like, locally. It doesn't have to go out to the internet and do it. Those are the fastest responding ones on that device, and the lag on those is of the order of probably 3 or 4 seconds, I would say. And the demo that you just gave felt slightly under that, I would say, like faster.
That is a Hue light,
right.
I think, using Zigbee through the Hue hub.
Right.
And you've been playing with an LLM with this then?
Yeah. So one of the things that my kids use the Amazon devices for is like their homework. It's stupid things like where is something located, or how do you spell something, or maths. And so I was interested in trying to keep that functionality, especially without stuff going to the cloud. And it seemed actually haven't properly experimented with running Ollama locally and running stuff on a couple of GPUs that I've got. So this has also been a bit of a rabbit hole that I jumped down to get it to work with the with Home Assistant. And I'm sorry, Phelim, it's pretty good.
Good for you.
It was a pain to set up, and the instructions are really poor. I use OpenWebUI and Ollama to set up an OpenAPI compatible API to the LLMs that I had running, and I've only got an 8 gig GPU, an NVIDIA 2070, I think, which is now from 2019. So that restricts the kind of size of the models that I can run. But even running Llama 3.2, which I think is only a couple of gig or 3 gig, and I also tried DeepSeek, but the Ollama one is absolutely perfect for nearly everything, like the math stuff and the spelling. I can even try it now. Like, okay, Nabu, spell beautiful.
BAUTIFUL.
And that's coming straight off Ollama running on the GPU in this room. Actually, it's nice and warm in here. So also, I mean, you can try questions. Okay, Nabu, why is the sky blue?
The Earth's atmosphere scatters sunlight in all directions. Blue light has a shorter wavelength and is scattered more than other colors, making it appear blue to our eyes.
Okay, Nabu, stop.
I think you've got to ask it, what are beans?
Shall I try it?
Yes.
Okay, Nabu, what are beans?
Beans are edible seeds, typically from legume plants, that come in various shapes, sizes, and colors. Examples include kidney beans, black beans, and chickpeas. They are a common ingredient in many cuisines worldwide, often used in soups, stews,
stop.
and as a protein.
Not bad.
So pretty good.
Ah, it stops. That's good. Yeah.
I was marginally sad that it didn't come out with Popey's voice.
Yeah. I tried running DeepSeek, something like a 5 or 6 gig LLM of that. And that's even better, but I couldn't find a way of stopping the reasoning. So every time you ask it a question, it has to work out how it's going to answer the question. You get all of that in the answer.
Does it also prefix things with Tiananmen Square didn't happen?
Yeah. And so all of that is completely running off my LAN. And in fact, that's just running off my PC here.
Right. So the most important question is this thing going to replace the Amazon devices? Has it yet? And if not yet, when?
Yeah, 100%. I think it will. The only thing that's holding me back is like spending the money and buy a couple of more devices. But yeah, it will.
And could you train it to do a lot more stuff than you think you could, right? That you're initially using it by default, the 40 sentences. Is it easy enough to train to do new stuff?
Yes, it is. And even without the LLMs, you can program it to respond exactly to sentences that you want it to respond to and tell it what to do. The clever thing, if you link it to an LLM, is it can do it. I don't want to say intelligently, Phelim, but it can dynamically create rules based on what you're asking. It has this context enough to understand how Home Assistant configures itself. So you can get it to create schedules and automations on the fly, which you can't do by creating more additional built-in sentences. But I'd be more likely to trust the built-in sentences anyway, and I'd just create those as I needed them.
That's quite cool because I have some friends who have disabilities and essentially are dependent on these to be able to switch stuff on and off, to send text messages and all that. And with the fact that Amazon have said, oh, this is no longer a profit leader, you have to worry that that's going to just go away eventually, and Google the same. And it is nice to see a project that is actually looking to be quite decent.
Yeah, and I think these devices are running, those ESP boards just the same as you can pick up for just a few pounds and build the same thing yourself.
I'm looking forward to the next gen of hardware with hopefully better microphones and perhaps a slightly faster processor on board. I think I'm going to wait until then, but I'm going to I hope you'll tell us how you're getting on with it.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you know how the family get on with it.
I know I'll give AI stick, but for people that can't do things, that would be quite an empowerment to be able to get it to do stuff.
I mean, ignoring the fact that we're calling it AI, I think it's pretty amazing that you can download 2 or 3 gig of something from the internet and then ask it all kinds of questions that it has an answer for.
Still wish it did Popey's voice for the beans thing, though.
Okay, this episode is sponsored by Tailscale. Go to tailscale.com/LNL. Tailscale is the easiest way to connect devices and services to each other, wherever they are. Everyone these days has a VPN as a sponsor, but Tailscale isn't like those. This isn't about hiding your browsing habits from coffee shop owners, and it's not about watching Netflix in another country. Tailscale is a proper VPN for connecting your devices securely. It's great for companies, and it's great for self-hosters. Tailscale makes creating software-defined networks easy, securely connecting users, services, and devices. You can get set up in just a few minutes and then see everything in the web interface. I love how easy and clear it is to see all my devices and everything I need to know about their status. Tailscale's personal plan will always be free, so support the show and try Tailscale out for free today. You'll get up to 100 devices and 3 users for free at tailscale.com/LNL with no credit card required. That's tailscale.com/LNL. On to a bit of admin then. First of all, thank you everyone who supports us with PayPal and Patreon. We really do appreciate that. If you want to join those people, you can go to latenightlinux.com/support. And remember that for various amounts on Patreon, you can get an advert-free RSS feed of either just this show or all the shows in the Late Night Linux family. And you even get some episodes early. And if you want to get in contact, you can email show@latenightlinux.com. Phelim, Casio F91W to 5,000 meters underwater. It's not spec for that.
It is definitely not spec for that. And I never had one of these. I had varying different ones because I thought that one looked a bit silly when I was growing up.
What? The coolest watch ever you thought looked silly?
I'm
okay.
Going out to buy one right now, okay? Except Argos closed down, so I don't know where the fuck I'd even get a watch like that from. Like, do jewelers still exist? Who knows? But yeah, this is amazing because, I mean, as a guy cunningly jokes about the fact that the US obviously hates the metric system. So it's clearly 7,227 pounds per square inch on every section of the watch, which I don't even know what that means. But then he links that to a Dodge Ram 1500 or a young adult hippopotamus. I mean, I don't even know how to deal with those two systems of measurement. But yeah, it's obviously a lot, I guess. I mean, I have never been pogoed by a series of hippopotami, but there we go. It's insane. They essentially attach it to the front of an ROV and then went, right, let's go down. And they went all the way down. And I'm pretty sure that watch says water resist 100 meters or something stupid like that, which makes you even believe that it won't actually keep the water out. It'll just like, if you sprinkle it with water at 100 meters, it might not work.
It just says water resist on it. I don't think it actually makes any claims about the depth.
Well, there you go. It's like clearly over-spec'd to the max.
And not just one of them. They sent loads of them down there.
And back up, by the way. It's not like they went down there, went, yeah, we did it, and then popped like soon after. No, they came back up and it was fine.
Well, the backlight's still shit though, isn't it?
It is still shit, yeah. But I have a marginally better Casio watch, which is also shit as well. I think it's a feature at this point. Maybe a design feature. I don't know.
I always wanted one with the cool kind of turquoise light.
Oh, yeah, me too. Never had one.
Yeah, well, I've got one.
Indiglo.
Oh, it's even got a cool name that I didn't know it had.
No, I thought it was that, but no, I think that is like a copyright of Timex or something like that. It's not a Casio thing. The Casio was like a rip-off of it. But now all the watches have got this orange light instead, which is equally visible, but not as cool. Pi-hole version 6 is out, and you've been checking it out, Will.
I have. I would say don't upgrade just yet. I had a problem upgrading the Docker container from the previous version to version 6, and it broke some functionality. I'm not the only person to have found this problem. There is a workaround. Basically, you go in and try and toggle add lists on and off, and it won't let you because there's something wrong with the SQLite database. However, on the whole, it's an improvement across the board. Improvements to the UI, improvements to the functionality, improvements to the speed of resolution. It's just a nice upgrade. So I will be moving over to it, but I'm perhaps going to leave it a couple more weeks. Sad to see that the API isn't quite finished yet. There are a lot more API features, but there is still some functionality missing. But on the whole, you can do more or less everything you can do through the web interface via the API.
It's funny, you said don't install it because it might break, but I hadn't realized that you were using the Docker version. I am not. I use the script. So I should be okay, is what you're saying, and I should upgrade it right now in the middle of recording.
I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a bug lurking in there for all upgrades.
Too late, doing it.
I have only upgraded my Docker version because that was my test version. My real version is still running the previous version.
Mine broke.
Oh, did it?
Well, I had a native Pi-hole installation running on Ubuntu on my Wise box, and the upgrade initially worked, and then a point release to fix a few bugs broke, and it couldn't find the package dependencies, and I couldn't fix it in time because everybody was complaining that the internet was down because everybody goes through Pi-hole at our home. So actually I've manually switched to AdGuard until maybe I'll use the Docker image when that's working. But yeah, it broke for me.
Right, so I'll be leaving mine as is then.
Undo.
Let's do some feedback then. John wrote in to say, you recently mentioned Redshift, but according to the Debian wiki, it's no longer maintained. There is a fork called Gamma Step, which I use on MX Linux with XFCE. Have you tried MX Linux? I'm glad I did. I have tried MX Linux, and it is good. It's very lightweight. It's kind of my go-to for old 32-bit machines. But I don't really see what it offers over Ubuntu or Linux Mint XFCE for day-to-day stuff. But I did try out Gamma Step, and it seems to be very similar to Redshift. Like, one of the things it says on the Debian wiki is that Redshift doesn't support Wayland, which it didn't seem to when I tried it, but neither did Gamma Step. At least not with the -O and then just temperature, like 4,500 or whatever. So maybe I was doing it wrong, but I just couldn't really see any difference between the two of them.
Just use KDE.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think so.
Right, well, we better get out of here then. We'll be back next week when it'll probably be news and stuff, but we'll have to see. Until then, I've been Joe.
I've been Phelan.
I've been Graham.
And I've been Will.
See you later.